A very warm welcome to this edition of Behind the Headlines, this first edition of the new month. We are in August 2022. Today is the 3rd of August, and welcome to Behind the Headlines. Today we are going to be looking at matters closer, to life, if you like. We are going to be talking and taking a look at the matters to do with disaster in the country, the sad occurrences of unpredictable, massive disasters that are going on in the Elgon region. Initially, there have been and is still going on in areas of Karamoja and of course, we have had some earlier ones in areas of Kasese and Bundibujo. And to discuss all that, we have in the studio, let me start with my extreme left. We have the Honorable Musa Echweru, State Minister for Works. He worked for many years in the Ministry or Department of Disaster Preparedness under the Prime Minister's office, and is here to help us put, perspectives to the discussion we have in the room. This is your, Honorable, this is your maiden appearance on this show. So I'm glad to have you here.
First of all, Charles, I want to thank you and thank the government of Uganda for investing money on UBC, and I'm pleasantly surprised that
you are surprised with
that you have a studio that actually compares with many studios that are supposed to be for a certain level. I'm very happy about that.
Thank you.
Otherwise, viewers, I'm happy to be here. I have not come this evening to speak as Minister for Disaster Preparedness.
Yes.
I am here in my capacity as Minister of State for Works,
yes,
and also a very big stakeholder in issues of disaster risk reduction.
Thank you very much.
So those are the capacities that the hats that I wear here.
Thank
so I want
you
it to be very clear so that nobody says, but the disaster minister was there. Is the Minister of Works. In fact, actually holding the portfolio because my senior has delegated me to be in charge of the ministry for 1 week or two.
Yeah.
So right now I'm not even state, I'm actually a full Minister of Works and Transport. So that's what brings me here.
You are a typical good student of public service management.
Yes,
you have to put the records clear so that
very clear.
There is no, they say, lawyers say for avoidance of doubt.
Precisely. But I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Honorable Musa, and good to have you. Next to him, we have the Honorable Musila John, who is MP for Bubulo East in Bugisu region. Honorable, you're most welcome. The last time you were here,
yes,
I was unwell and out of the station, and I watched. I was actually, I think, somewhere in West Nile, but I watched, and it was a good show that you had.
Thank you.
So glad to have you back again.
Oh, thank you. Let me put Dengule first. The Baganda call it Dengule. His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, the Iron Lion of Zion, His Majesty is the King of Peace and the King of Love. So,
I didn't know you.
Peace and love, I'm a Rastaman.
I didn't know you were a Rastaman.
I am a Rastaman. Ever since I was RC5, I used to call you.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
I would say I'm a Rastaman.
Oh, thank
Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen and the viewers, we want to say again, this is a good show. It's good that you called me, and I have to, on behalf of especially the Elgon region, which has just had a recent disaster, a big one, a catastrophe it was. Watu wangu kutoka eneo bunge langu na hata wilaya yangu na ya Namisindwa, pole kabisa, tumefiwa, tumeumia, lakini ni hivyo tutaongea na nyinyi. Thank you.
Thank you for being a good East African.
Thank you.
You are way ahead of many of us. So when they start training the ministers and MPs,
yes,
Kiswahili,
yes,
you will be one of the facilitators.
Mimi niko kabisa.
Good.
Tayari kabisa.
Next is the Honorable David Pulkol. He is the Executive Director for the East African Leadership. It is African, not East Africa. It is actually Africa Leadership Institute. Glad to have you, David, after a long while. You have been missing in action, and as some people would say. What's good with
I've been around.
yeah, still in research and documentation?
Yes, good evening, viewers.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Good. And David has been MP for a number of years. He was minister in the NRM government. Then he served at the highest level as the Director General of the External Security Organization. Then he retired, whatever you may call it, but he's still doing great work. David, good to have you.
David was also CA delegate.
Ha! I didn't know that part. I missed. Oh, you were in the CA?
Yes.
You grow old. David, what do you eat? You look younger than some of
joined
us.
when he was 2 years.
Why? I was a minister since '87. What are you talking about?
Yes, that I heard.
Yeah. So
He was the youngest minister then.
Yes, at the time, yes.
So,
He was the youngest
but
minister.
God is good.
But
Yes,
also
it's
some discipline. He has some discipline, the way he eats, it's not, if you have to handle pork ribs, it must be one rib, not so many.
That becomes pork rib, not pork rib.
Sorry.
And, oh yes,
Don't go there.
David, good to know all those. I did know the CA part.
Yeah.
Yes, and finally here we have the Council, Sarah Birette, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Governance. Sarah, it's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Good. I think on the line from, I don't know whether our colleague, Honorable Ojara Martin Mapenduzi, yes, right there. Oh, now, Ojara Martin Mapenduzi is right now joining us from Nairobi, where he is, I think he is one of the 5 or 4 election observers as part of the Great Lakes Parliamentary, I think, initiative that are going to observe the Kenyan elections, and he has already reported to duty. So, Ojara, it's good to have you, Omera. How are you doing? How is Nairobi? Tell us, and you're most welcome. He's joining us by Zoom.
What's happening to
The signal?
Honorable Jara, can you touch on your, I think you have muted. Try unmuting. Or is it my, no, I think I need to get the technical team in the studio here to correct a few things. I think it is our line. If you have unmuted, it must be our own line this side. But we will have you, don't go away. Let me get someone to work on that glitch for now. But let's start the discussion. Honorable, let's start with Honorable Musila.
Yes, please.
By this evening, I'm told we have already lost 29 people, and this is just within a week. When disaster struck, and how, are these things we could not mitigate? Are these things we could not prevent from happening? Or are these things that were way beyond our human, predictions that have to happen, and that so our people have to die? What's happening exactly in Bugiso?
I think, Charles, one thing to say is that disaster is a disaster.
Yeah.
You may not estimate up to until what exact time it may happen. There are those which show, like landslides. I spoke last year, I spoke of this passing month in Parliament, and I warned, if I had to be a prophet, or if I spoke with the gowns of a prophet, then I would be a prophet. Because exactly 2 weeks ago, I spoke by yesterday. I said, disaster is coming. I warned, by the way. Now, the way it happened is quite a very appalling situation.
Well, is this the worst?
Yeah, one of the worst. They have been there always.
Yes, I know.
You remember in 2010, in Nameti. The landslide, I mean, buried over 350 people.
Yes,
and
I
we have
went,
never
I went
recovered.
there. I remember
Yeah,
that
you
time
went
we
there.
went there.
But this one now has been the floods. This time they were really bad. Unlike the rest of the country, Bugisu has been having rains. Maybe intermittently, but it has been having rains. Just last month, beginning of last month, I traveled to Western Uganda through Buganda and other places. I saw a lot of crops destroyed, drought all over. But Bugisu, at least we were getting some rains every week, or at least every fortnight we were getting rains. Now, before the morning of Sunday, the previous day, Saturday, there had been relatively heavy rains. Saturday night, beginning from around 10 onwards.
10 p.m.
10 p.m., yes. We had a torrent of rain. And all over the whole region, it was bad. Now, that's why you see now Mbale, you know, the road from Tororo, that northern corridor road, the Tororo, Mbale, Kumi, Soroti, on to Lira, up to Gulu. You know, it has heavy commercial and the private vehicles around there. Now, by the time of around 2-3, most rivers had burst their banks. And so when people came over driving, you can't detect with headlamps that the river is flooding, or if you have a certain speed, and especially those who are not used with the mountains. Remember that most of the locals who died were those either on motorcycles or simply walking through the water. But the fatalities more were with the motorists, were from outside, people riding through there, but from outside. The 11 people who perished in that supercar storm and others didn't know what happened, what was happening, by the way. So it has been quite a pity to us as a region. We lost so many people as well. In my own district and the constituency, I lost 2 people we buried the other day. And it is bad, sincerely. For the, within the immediate recent times, this has been the worst.
Okay.
But above that, above all that, the land pressure we have in Bugisu, you got to know, especially that we have mismanaged river banks heavily. The restoration mechanisms, the forest cover, private forest cover in Bugisu, over the last 10 years or 15, because I've been chairman of LC5, you remember the last time I was calling you. The forest cover is good, private forest cover. The park cover is about, I think, 1,000 kilometers squared. That is the national park. It has not been tampered with badly of recent because of the efforts of government. But the people also have learned that you have to plant trees, and with the efforts of government and others, we have the private forest cover is quite good. The mismanagement of river banks is the worst, and the mechanisms to restore river banks is very, very bad. Okay. We have even settled just within the way of the former river banks. We have a saying in Lugisu, where a river passed at one time, which was a river bank, the river will again claim it at one time.
But that
later.
Bugisu borrowed from science.
Of course.
In science,
yes,
they say water finds its own level.
Exactly.
So where it has ever passed,
yes,
if whatever you put,
yes,
one day,
yes,
one unfortunate day,
yes,
it will come
it
back.
Will come
again,
back.
Whatever you put there.
Exactly. Bagiso are very good scientists. And
I like that.
Very good scientists. We even had a meteorologist called Bakimba, who would foretell, although of course we are now losing out to that.
Okay.
And one of the pillars of the 10 pillars of Bagiso, Bukimba, the meteorologists traditionally would even forecast using the biological methods, using natural methods within the cosmos. Do you know that it is very easy to detect that a disaster is coming from other beings, maybe birds, snakes, whatnot that.
Yes.
You can detect.
Yeah,
And
that's why I'm wondering why these incidences happen and people find themselves caught up. But let me bring in the Honorable Minister at this point. Honorable Minister, you are in charge of handling some of this as government, so to speak. But we have seen situations where we are overwhelmed as a people, communities that we are mentioning, and of course government. What is it, and this have been happening over the years, you know, like you mentioned the one of 2010, there were earlier disasters, and each time they happen, you know, it causes real catastrophe. Are we defeated? Should we just leave ourselves to the vagaries of nature and to deal with us as it is?
We are not defeated, Charles. First of all, let me say this. My heart goes to the bereaved families, in particularly Mount Elgon sub-region. That is Bugisu and Sebei. On the onset, I want the viewers to appreciate that it is true that this recent catastrophe seems to have gained a lot of prominence, particularly just in Mbale and the city. But the fact is that it is wider than that. There are areas within the Elgon that have not been captured by the media very, very extensively, but those of us, particularly our teams that went on the ground, saw the impact and they are fixing it. My knowledge as a former minister responsible for disaster management is we have two types of disasters. Those that are avoidable and those that cannot be avoided. And those that cannot be avoided are the type that sometimes hit, for example, the seismically active zone like the Hoima areas, the Albertine Graben, Kasese, because they sit on a very active plate. And things like earthquakes, they are just disasters waiting to happen. In fact, that is a subject that I have asked some of my experts that we return here before it happens to share with the citizens on what should be done. For example, we have some building codes that we developed, but they are not sometimes enforced effectively. So that is a matter that will be coming to talk about very effectively on another day. Then there are those that can be avoided. For example, things that can be managed, like if we managed our environment effectively, they may happen, but it will not be at a magnitude that we are witnessing today. I want Charles, our countrymen who are viewing us, to know that environmental preservation is a collective responsibility. We must lead as a government, but all the citizens must rise up and say, we are going to work as individuals, as in groups, as a community. We either preserve the environment or perish. That is something that we cannot run away from. We either preserve the environment or perish. And the preservation of the environment should not belong to a certain group only. It is a collective responsibility and all the citizens must have it. And we must all rise to that. I am guilty in the sense that we as government, we have pronounced ourselves on many things. Some policies have, we said on such and such a day, we are going to declare a day of tree planting, we are going to do this, but sometimes we have not arrived. People are expecting us to say, like, make such policies and live to them. But sometimes we have not effectively arrived. I'm also guilty, partially, as part of government, because, you know, we are supposed to be role models, Charles. We are supposed to be be role models. We had a discussion recently with my colleagues where you find, for example, we are saying we are silting wetlands, we are destroying the forest cover, we are making mountains bare. But who are some of the people who are doing this? Sometimes it is us, the ministers, sometimes it is the directors of constitutional, sometimes it's the director of affiliate. You will put a hotel very close to the lake. So we, the leaders who are supposed to be role models, sometimes have failed our country people, because when they see us doing this, we speak about how we must preserve the environment, but at the same time we are the same people who are really destroying the environment, and that encourages them to now say, let's also now go on offensive, let's say silt the wetlands, let's do this and so on and so forth. So Mount Elgon recently, in the last few days, has had this catastrophe. What is the cause? The cause, my honorable MP, from the preliminary assessment, is the degradation that has happened. It is true that there is a lot of planting of trees, but experts are telling us some of the trees are, because they are not indigenous trees, they are not the natural trees that used to hold the soils together, they easily give in. For the moment the soils get saturated and they easily give in and they are swept with the soil. So what happened was there was a landslide, and this landslide took the debris and blocked most of our channels and caused the rivers to burst their banks. And in the bursting the banks, it comes with the silt now, and it is that silt that came, for example, to Mbale city, and it made the water that was supposed to naturally flow in the channels to now spread. And in doing that, it caused a lot of mayhem, washing away people and washing away property and killing so many of our citizens. And so we must look at the causes. It is true that there are some things that we ought to have done, but I also want to say on a positive note, we have lost people, all right, we have lost property, but I want to really say bravo to the teams that quickly moved in and made a difference. Today I was in Parliament and colleagues were saying, Mr. Chweru, what are you doing here? You are supposed to be in Mbale. You are a man in charge of roads and you are here.
The baby was born.
It is true that we are supposed to do what we call support supervision. But it's also true that immediately this happened, Charles, we deployed teams. For example, I am happy to report to the countrymen now that the roads that were blocked, for example, you see, look at Mbale Kokonjeru Road. The road is clear now. We have cleared the debris. Now it is motorable. Within a few days, we have been able to remove the debris and the silt that had covered the road. Bulangani Sihisi, that road was also it was closed. It was blocked. We have also cleared it using the equipment that is just available within the region. Then this one of Mbale Tororo at Bunkoko now, the channels that we have put there were silted, and therefore that's why some people died there. We have also, I'm happy to report that we have also cleared them. By yesterday, the place is now motorable. We have learned a few lessons from it. It looks like our culverts were small. We are going to see how best we can work on them. Fortunately, that road was in plan to be expanded and farmed from Tororo all the way to Kamudini. So that's going to be worked on. Mbale Kumi Soroti, the channel, that's where many people again died. The channels were blocked. I am also happy to report to countrymen that it has also been opened. We have also opened it. We have not fixed it to a level that will resist another occurrence of that magnitude, but at least we have made it motorable with a view now to say we must have a plan. In fact, as we talk this morning, I dispatched engineers from the center here to team up with the team in the field so that they can come up with a comprehensive report and a technical report that will indicate to us what needs to be done, so that in the event that there is another flood of that magnitude, we should have, say for example, channels and our rivers and should be able to allow water to pass, even some silt, until but like nature sometimes has its way. We can do how much, but there is a limit beyond which we cannot say maybe we are able to. So we have been able to do a few things, and the members of parliament who are watching today, there was that feeling that maybe we have not been on the ground. The reality, Charles, is that yes, the problem was big, but we have been able to respond. Probably not very adequately, but we have responded to the level that we have made the meaning, given back meaning to the lives of the people who are there. So that's what we have been able to do, and work is continuing. Our excavators are continuing to help the teams to do search and rescue, just in the event that there are still more bodies that could be buried in the silt. We are also on that. So that's what we have done. Like to say, when you say, do we surrender? No. In life, we are not supposed to surrender. We are supposed to tame nature. We are supposed to tame nature. Nature is fighting back because we think we seem to have been a little reckless as citizens, as members of the human race. All over, you know, you saw recently fires in Europe, and those fires are a consequence of a degraded environment. And so us here also, we must prescribe solutions, and to me, environmental preservation is a must, and we must factor it in all our interventions, beginning now. We learn from some of these lessons, and learning from, we just don't need to lament now when things are bad, and when things normalize, then we go back to business as usual. We must all the time be on standby and say, how can we preserve this beautiful country for posterity, for ourselves and for posterity? That should be, in my opinion, the rallying call for all of us here.
Good. Thanks a lot, Honorable Minister, especially for laying out some of the causes. Honorable Pulkol, in discussing disaster issues management and you know, looking at what we are losing, what we need to be, not what needs to be done, you wear a number of hats. One, of course, you are an opinion leader and you represent people as well, people who have gone through disaster itself, but also at a level of discussing some of these things at an intellectual level. I was interested in 2018-19, I think you engaged through, you engaged a number of people. I think the Honorable Minister Chweru participated, and then when he was in disaster at UMI, where you and the team, including technical people from the Ministry from OPM, discussed, and some of these things that we are talking about are the things that were discussed at those, dialogues that you had at UMI. But when you read the document, you discover that we are very good on prescribing solutions and predicting some of the things that will come, but very poor on executing what we actually plan and know that will happen. Where exactly should we begin to see a real sense of, problem solution, and how do we handle these kind of disasters now in Uganda, especially the ones the minister says are avoidable, the ones that are avoidable?
Charles, let's begin from the CA, the Constituent Assembly. Is there a constitution in this country? Yes.
Yes, we do.
Where does it emanate its power? From the people. Where does the power to solve this problem reside? We tried to trace the power, and we located it within the people, the citizens of Uganda. And that power is delegated to the executive, it is delegated to the legislature, the parliament, it is delegated to the judiciary. Wow. And that power is arranged in the Constitution. Even the power that is in this Constitution emanates from the people. So when you elect a president, and when the president appoints ministers, appoints departmental, and the civil service establishes departments of government, so he's exercising that power. And so are there people that are mandated to save life and property of our people? are there within the structures of the executive departments that have no other business except to manage disaster preparedness and response. They are there. They earn a salary. They are given a budget. They are given vehicles. They have equipment. So what am I talking about here? There is a whole ministry which focuses on this within the OPM. There are departments, there are commissioners, directors, they are there. Are they schooled? Yes. When you are in senior 3, you study about landslides in geography, you study about floods, you study about even primary. The other day, salaries for primary school teachers and secondary school teachers, science teachers was increased. Those who teach about soil erosion, gully erosion, sheet erosion, different typologies of erosion. But shame, the same soil erosion is claiming top active soil in the same school where soil erosion is being taught, in the villages around where that school is being taught. But the people who know about soil erosion and can do something about that soil erosion are there, and they're being paid a salary. Now, you come back to the Constitution. So then there's Parliament, because you have NEMA. You know, Parliament was given constitutional bodies, authorities. To help a Parliament, they investigate, they have special functions, they send their reports annually to Parliament. And Parliament must use these technical reports to supervise the executive. So I'm saying this because people who need not have died, have died. And maybe they will continue to die. So we should not normalize this thing. When our government is structured, is running a 48 trillion budget, and has got departments and authorities, like for example, National Environment Authority, like Uganda National Meteorological Authority, like you have
National Forest Authority.
National Forest Authority. And there are so many authorities. These are independent bodies. For example, did the meteorological department and the authority, did they predict this? Because when you read the National Planning or the National Planning Authority, when you read the National Plan, Development Plan 3, you will find that actually there's a whole section dealing with disasters. And there are even targets. They are even allocated who is responsible for this. You go to NDP 3. So you'll find it there. And some of these are already there. And money is provided for. So even they aim and say, our objective in this development plan 3 is to increase the accuracy of Uganda National Meteorological Authority from 80% to 90%. And true, when you go to their website, you'll find that they predicted June to August in the east and the north, there's going to be heavy rainfall, and it will going to be over normal.
Above normal.
Above normal. It's there. And they give you reports daily. They do seasonal reports, and they are also mandated to come with disaster assessment,
predictions.
Predictions. So the technical people are there. They write reports. They put on websites. They print. But when I saw that, where is the National Meteorological Authority? Where is it supposed to take its report? To the minister. It says annual report goes to the Minister of Water and Environment. Within 3 months at the end of a financial year, it must go there, and the minister must produce it to Parliament within 30 days, okay, of receipt of that report. When I looked at NEMA, when the 4th year of the 10th Parliament, NEMA did not submit any report to Parliament. In the 4th year, the 5th year of the 10th Parliament. I don't know about the 1st year now of the 11th Parliament. So why is Parliament not demanding for these reports? I see on 5th October 2021, the deputy speaker then, the current speaker, okay, during a plenary sitting, directed government to constitute a disaster preparedness commission to promptly handle this. do we have a disaster preparedness commission? Because it is there under Article 249
Yes.
of the Constitution. So from 95, Paka tomorrow, how come we don't have this commission? Disaster Preparedness Commission. And so the Prime Minister was directed by the Speaker of Parliament to go back and constitute this. So that when the rest of us are busy doing other things, there must be those who take care of us.
But would
And I'm
just,
saying-
sorry to interrupt you, but would just having that body,
I'm going to lay out the
would it
architecture.
ensure that the problems of disaster is managed immediately and for, you know,
What I mean
sustainability?
here is we study this thing. It's either going to be in Kabale, in Kisoro, in Bundibujo, or in Kasese. When you talk about landslides and floods, you're talking about Mount Elgon. These are not everywhere in the country.
No.
It is predictable. If you're talking about famine. So if you're talking about now the soil between Lake Yoga and Lake Victoria are getting oxidized, excessively oxidized. So the pH is dropping. It is turning towards acidity because of this reclamation of swamps. So the productivity of this soil, when you go to Teso, those areas of Lango, and so the alkalinity of the soil is moved above 7. So it's moving towards 14. So you need to condition that soil to make it predictable, to avoid famine. So you may be talking about famine in Karamoja now, but that famine is getting widespread even in Teso, in other places. So I'm saying that are there no departments, are there no technical experts that are mandated to handle this kind of thing and prevent and plan? If meteorological department says in the next 3 months in those areas, why don't we prepare? So even pre-positioning supplies so that you have a warehouse. Even when you are buying equipment for districts in Mount Elgon, for example, or in Kasese and Bundibujo. So there are districts you must buy even cranes. It was so shameful for me to see citizens pulling somebody from the mud. And this one is pulling, this one is pulling me, the other one is pulling, and the other. And imagine the mud is holding a person.
At their own risk.
At their own risk.
Yeah.
And
So this is 2022.
21st century.
I mean, how do you explain this? In Ukraine, you see quickly something happens, you see the rescue group coming quickly. But here, the rescue group. So I'm saying these things we need to plan. We need to budget. In 2020, 2021 budget, I saw it was raised in Parliament because I read the answer. I monitor the performance of Parliament and therefore those of the MPs. So I read where now we requested for 30 billion shillings for disaster preparedness. That's what the Minister Hilary Onek was saying, or was it Onubanyakun? And that we were given 15 billion. Now 5 billion was diverted by the Prime Minister. And members were really, you know, Macho and Honorable Macho. There are quite a number of people, including the one from Kazo. They came into the debate. And but why? If this is for disaster, which disaster again is in the office of the Prime Minister that can divert resources that, because before you go for donors, that money, you saw that recommendation we made in that policy brief, that the ministry must have funds and therefore it must respond. By the time other actors come, they find you on the ground already. Not again going to fact finding. You know already what is required quickly. So by the time you respond. So why are there no tents? Why are there no, you know, people who are getting displaced so that they can quickly take into safety? Now, if you see then a whole industrial park in Mbale getting drowned, was there no environmental impact assessment? But by now, NEMA, whoever approved that thing, I mean, by now, the heads must roll. The heads must roll, Chief. So what am I saying? I'm saying that I think we're not taking our job. Is there no environmental police? There is a police. There are mineral police. the environmental police. The president has been really giving directives.
Okay.
But enforcement, now, again in the CA, we put land use planning and regulation is squarely in the hands of the executive, the government. The land might be yours, but once government says this place is planned for this facility, for this kind of thing, you, or for example, you may say Buganda Road, you cannot put a building there unless it's 6 stories and above. So even if you are the owner, you have to put a 6 stories because government has planned it that way. And if not, enter into partnership with somebody who has money and become a shareholder, and you put that thing up, and it must be enforced. So it means some people are sleeping in their jobs.
Okay.
And we are losing, you're saying, counting the cost. And why are we losing property? Why are we losing citizens? So I think let's look at the architecture, the way it has been arranged on disaster management. I've told you National Planning Authority, National Environment Authority, National Metropolitan Authority. There are so many. You name them. Okay?
You can add on climate change.
You know, so these authorities, what authority do they have? Because if you see River Manafa having 2 tons of sediments per every kilometer of that river. River Manafa. 2 tons of sediment, soil.
And the Wahaha.
And where is it offloading? It's offloading to Butaleja. Butaleja offloads it to Mpologoma River, and it goes to Lake Yoga. So imagine now rivers from Teso, from Karamoja, from, you know, we are all emptying our topsoil. So in 50 years, will there be Lake Yoga? It's a serious matter because the amount of clear water is shrinking in Lake Yoga. The amount of swamp is expanding. So where is this wake-up call?
Okay.
Okay.
Very good questions. And at this point, I want to bring in Sarah. We were talking about, Honorable Pulkola has brought in many questions than answers. But, you know, the questions actually tend to answer a number of the questions. Let me make a reference, for example, to this meeting, this conference where government was represented. There was UMI. I was reading it, and thanks, Pulkol, for that initiative. And the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Honorable Echweru, I said, was represented then. And they agreed on a number of things which could help on responsiveness to, some of this. One of them, they said, Parliament should review the disaster management legislation. I don't know whether Parliament has reviewed it. That funding should be made readily available for research on risk management, mapping and design of tools for disaster preparedness. 3, that evacuation of vulnerable populations should become mandatory.
Exactly.
Okay? This was at UMI, and the UMI is involved in these discussions. They organize this policy,
National Policy Forum.
National Policy Platform debates. Then, that contingency plans for critical facilities should be designed by all stakeholders through inclusive and participatory processes. Public awareness campaigns, that's another important one. Public awareness campaigns should be carried out on a regular basis. Rescue and evacuation teams should be trained and equipped with the right tools. Community level. Now, there were about 8 then. Providing alternative sources of income to the vulnerable communities. Sarah, from what we know right now, not many of these have been done. And after Sarah, maybe and Mapenduzi, we will come back to the Honorable Minister to find out where exactly the gaps are and what needs to be done, what the role of Parliament is. Musila is here to respond to that. Sarah, do you think that we can, Honorable Echweru said that we are not defeated. Do you think that we can still have hope that these things are within our abilities?
You know, Charles, they are bad indicators or not so good indicators, if I may try to be a bit positive. We have so far lost 45% of our forest cover. That's a very dangerous indicator.
Over how many years?
No, since 2000 and no, since 1990, we've lost 45% of forest cover. And this is when we have the authorities in place that Polkoro was talking about. You have National Forest Authority, you have National Environmental Management Authority, you have National Planning Authority, you have, you know, as we are talking, I know we normally refer to the Ministry for Disaster Preparedness. You know, the word is too long. We normally say Minister for Disaster. Maybe also the tongue. The tongue punishes acid in turn. If you look at the sharpness really within that ministry. Because before the floods in the Elgon region, we were dealing with an unfortunate incident of famine in Karamoja.
Which is still persisting?
It's still on.
Yes, it is
Persisting.
still on. You can imagine Uganda, a food basket for East Africa. We are entertained to live skeletons of our fellow citizens as a country. What is the problem? I think really the people who should take the first responsibility is the leadership. This is a leadership crisis. There is no way to sweet talk the problem. In democracy, leadership is everything. So what kind of leadership have we had on climate change, on preparing for disasters, and now we have, as much as floods and landslides should be natural disasters, but when you destroy the environment, they also become man-made. Yeah. Because we are greatly contributing to the crisis. You destroy forest cover, everybody's building in a wetland. I know recently the president has been talking on cancelling titles in wetlands, but there is no action. Leadership
And then
is
they bring
gauged.
him to commission again.
Leadership is gauged on actions, not talk. Talk is cheap. If you have made a political decision to cancel all titles in wetlands, why don't you write a declaration which cancels these titles, which makes them null and void, signed and stamped? Why don't you direct the Minister of Lands to record all these titles? What is rocket science about it? If we mean it, if we mean business in cancelling the titles in wetlands, why isn't it done? Why has it become a song in this country? And if the president is watching, Mr. President, why should your words become mere songs in this country? Are you incapable of acting? Is cabinet incapable of acting?
And if he's not watching right now,
his teams are watching and the minister is here. The minister is here. So if you look at the global climate crisis, I know that we passed the National Climate Change Act last year, 2021, and it has structures and strategies for climate mitigation and adaptation, but nothing has been implemented so far. And maybe the minister will update us. I am not aware. And there are simple actions we can do as a country. Restore the wetlands, plant forests. Every day, I stay in Mgongo. Every day as you go home, you see a wetland disappearing. Starts with a petrol station, then a washing bay, then a bar. Just give it 2 months. A whole wetland will have disappeared. And these are continuing violations of our environment. We cannot have a society if we destroy the environment. And nature is catching up with us. We have prolonged droughts. We have heavy rains, uncontrollable. We have floods, we have landslides. They are going to increase. Even areas that were not prone to these calamities are going to experience them because we do not have any shock absorbers. So the questions that we should ask, what are we doing about it? What are the practical actions? Of course, in terms of responding to disasters, the ministries have taken the literal meaning of disaster and they've forgotten about preparedness. They are a disaster themselves. you look at Mbare, the response, citizens going into the floods, bottles were cutting their feet, some did not even have anything on them, no hand gears, nothing. And almost all those bodies were retrieved by fellow citizens.
Yeah, manually.
Manually. All the 29, I know 20 have been so far identified, all of them were retrieved manually by citizens. You see videos of citizens saying, you know, a prime minister, immediately on Sunday, flew to Mbare, but with barely nothing, just for a photo moment. Did she carry anything? Evacuation? I know that political comfort is important, but can you be practical about it? How do you fly to drowning people and you have just presented your face?
I have had.
She should have gone with equipment or should have been followed.
No, but that was.
She said the convoys are coming by road. Maybe. Nothing. Then we don't have another warning system. Or if it is there, it is not active. And that's what Mr. Poko was talking about. How do we predict? How do we act? Evacuating people. In Mbare, there is no evacuation.
No.
People are still staying in those houses which were displaced. How part of the flooded? They have nowhere to go.
True.
You go and erect a very modern industrial park in the middle of a wetland. Are we really serious, Mr. Minister?
We are.
How?
We are. I thought, yes, thank you.
We will respond to that. We will.
Yes.
I have all the history about that.
If we do, then let's take care of
Yes.
and raise the.
That's true.
And
Then
provide water for
the Shabe funding. I'm sure that even the delayed response, if you are to investigate further, you find that even people who should have responded had no means. And release is where the whatever is really. Maybe we need to close that ministry for disaster. And in future, give it another name.
We need it.
But what is it doing?
And give the role
I think
to
to
who?
starve it, we need to equip it.
Well,
We need to.
you know, it either shapes up or ships out.
Exactly.
Because we cannot keep having the idle entities.
Ship out, but can ship.
Eh?
It
Or
can
shape.
There are committees.
It should
There are
ship.
committees at local
Shape or
government
ship
level.
out. Yeah, but it cannot stay the way it is. If you look at the public awareness, of course it's needed. Like now the citizens are engaged in self-help mechanisms. If they were trained, even briefed on what was about to happen, they would have responded better, and it is very important, Charles.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. I wanted to bring in Honorable Mapenduzi. I'm told now his line is clearer. Honorable Mapenduzi, can I request that I take a break right now, and then immediately after the break, I bring you on, and then rush to the Minister for the responses to the multiple questions that have been posed. But hold there and hold it there and don't go away. We are looking at the disaster management in the country. We are really counting losses. We are counting lives that you know, have joined the statistics of people that we have lost in disasters. And we are looking at the different challenges that have bedeviled the management of disaster in this country. And, you know, it's something we cannot run away from. Disasters will happen, whether predictable or unpredictable. But what we really must be asking ourselves, can we manage them when they come? How better can we? Let's take a break right now. This is Behind the Headlines.
MTN Kabode Super as you pay mpola for this smartphone. Make calls, update your WhatsApp status, watch YouTube, and Google anything under the sun with 2 GB worth of data every month for 7 months. Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly, or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN Kabode Super easy.
Do you need data collection services, data analysis and reporting, monitoring and evaluation systems? Then contact Molt Technologies, a professional research firm that has provided many organizations with timely research solutions for over 15 years. For more information, visit www.mt.co.ug or call us on 0704 913 399 or 0782 602 963. Visit our office in Kampala at Sayuni Complex in Tinda. Mode Technologies, your professional research firm.
Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Shareable using to Gabonais. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
Oh, Susan, I want to propose to Rose. Yes, and this time I am serious.
Have you guys had sex?
Duh, of course.
And have you had sex without using condoms?
Hey, Nga, you're curious.
I'm more concerned. Are you having sex with other people?
Hey, hello, is this an interview or what?
No, just things you should think about. Do you know Rose's HIV status?
Okay, this is serious. Should I be worried?
It is actually serious. Do you know your HIV status?
I think I am safe. Many times we get into situations that put us at risk of HIV. However, the first step to ending HIV is getting tested and knowing your results.
It's Time Up HIV. Call 0800-211-046 or text 8080 toll-free for more information about how to prevent HIV.
This message is brought to you by Ministry of Health with support from USAID.
It's a full-time job to be a great parent or guardian. The decisions we make impact their lives forever. And getting a birth certificate is one of the most important ones. All you need to do is get a birth notification record stamped by a medical officer from the hospital where the baby was born or from the sub-county chief in case it occurred at home. Go to the NERA offices in your area and present the notification record, copy of parent's ID and bank payment slip of 5,000 Ugandan shillings for citizens and $40 for non-citizens. Fill NERA Form 3 while there, and a birth certificate will be issued to you. Please note that birth certificates to refugees born in Uganda are free of charge. For more information, visit the NERA office closest to you or call 0800-211-700. This message is brought to you by NERA.
Meet Professor Petero. He knows something every hustler in UG is gonna love.
Oh, see. You see, I was just trying to get the documents to register for Airtel Money.
You don't need the documents. You just say for register.
What's going on here?
He sells things from the shop, and behind my back, he gets the money and gives it to his girlfriends.
But just get Airtel Money Pay so that all money comes direct to your business wallet, and only you, the owner, have access to it.
Just dial *185 *10 hash, and now you are on. No waiting.
Huh? This insanity is sweet. Give them also.
I only take Airtel Money Pay. It's easy and secure.
Yes, become a safer and more efficient cash-free business today. Easy.
No mixing your business money with your Kameza money. No, that's efficient.
Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Coming back on air. Welcome back from the break. This is Behind the Headlines on UBC here, and we are taking a look at the management of disaster in Uganda, and we are really counting the costs of, you know, that management, the quality, if you like. Is it worth talking about? Is it there? Do we have early warning systems in this country? If there, what did we warn the people of Mbale? Lives have been lost. Of course, a lot of other resources are being lost as well, but more especially lives. And should we be losing lives when we know that we can actually avoid the loss? That's the question we are asking ourselves. And in the studio we have the Honorable Musa Ichweru, Minister of State for Works. He is acting minister currently, and heavily involved in the management of the occurrences in the Elgon region. We have Honorable Musila John, who is MP from the Elgon region, is MP for Bubulo East. We have the Honorable David Pulkol, who is a researcher, and you know, and he has been a minister, he has been an MP. We have our Council Sarah Birette, who is from the civil society organization space, and online, all the way from virtually joining us from Nairobi, we have the Honorable Martin Ojara Mapenduzi. Let me, I promised to bring Ojara before I bring the debate back to, you know, take it to the people. The many messages on Twitter and getting it on WhatsApp and other channels. And before I bring back the minister to respond, Honorable Ojara, are you online?
Yes, I'm online.
Thank you very much, and it's good to hear from you, Honorable Ojara. You could have, you had us talk for the first segment. I want to bring you on board. A lot of things have been talked about, good plans, no execution, poor implementation, well laid out plans, objectives, you know, and you know, discussions. People, we actually know that this is what will happen. This is the kind of intervention that should be designed, but very poor or no action at all. And that's the question we are asking: where are we getting it wrong, and how do we get it right? Go for it, Honorable Ojara.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me begin by saying greetings to Ladit David Pulkol, one of the people I hold very highly, and the Honorable Minister Musa Ichweru, and my sister Sarah, and my good friend Honorable John. I equally greet the viewers. My brother Charles, let me join the rest of Ugandans, the rest of the country, in expressing how sad I am, how devastated the situation is following the very unfortunate situation in eastern Uganda. I send my condolences to those who lost their dear ones, the people of Mbale, eastern Uganda, and Uganda at large. It's a very difficult moment, but just as you say, Charles, this is something that we all know about, the country knows about. And I'm saying this because when you look 30 years back, many things happen. And when things happen, as leaders who are responsible, we should be able to look at these things, take them as lessons, and design interventions that would avoid reoccurrences or would avoid a similar situation. I will take you back, Charles, very briefly. I will take you up to 1987. In 1987, there was a serious problem of drought, and 60,000 people. I'm taking you to 87. Just within the period this government has been in place. 1987, 600,000 people were greatly affected by drought. Then it came to 1990 and 1991, when about 29 people died as a result of, drought and outbreak of diseases. Again, 1994, 50,000 people got affected by earthquake. Then came to 97, where 150,000 people got affected again by floods. And that time, 100 people lost their lives. Came to 1998 and 1999, again drought, over 826,000 people. And it goes on and on and on. Coming to around 2000, 2002, 2005, 2007, 2008, almost after every 2 or 3 years, we have a similar situation in the country. Either we have floods or landslides, or we have an outbreak of, diseases, or we have drought or famine. That is what the country has been experiencing for almost 3 decades. That should help us to know the kind of situation we are faced with as a country, and also to always be prepared. Now, the story of Eastern Uganda, especially the areas of, Mbale and surrounding areas, the things that are going on there are things that we know. And just as Honorable John put it, about 2 weeks ago, Honorable John raised this on the floor of Parliament as a matter of national public importance. And he made it very clear that there was going to be a big problem in Eastern Uganda, and it was very specific, mentioning the cracks that has continued to widen, mentioning, he raised this matter. And indeed, the Speaker tasked the ministry responsible, actually tasked the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister stood up and said they were taking steps. She equally explained that indeed she had gone on the ground, and I want to appreciate the Right Honorable Prime Minister, because even members of Parliament indeed agreed that she traveled on the ground to assess the situation. So these are things that have been happening. So if we know that after every 2 or 3 years we have an event that is unfortunate to the country, how do we then proactively design interventions that can solve this problem? Now, government has taken some steps, because in 2010 there came the National Policy for Disaster Preparedness and Management, which is a beautiful document. When you read this document, then we have the brains in this country. The document gives a lot of information, gives a lot of strategies and putting structures in place and, different ways of how to deal with, and based on this history just that I have given. So the question is, why are we not able to put in practice what we have on paper? If we know that this is what we are faced with as a country, we have come up with documents to guide our intervention, and then we abandon the document, and then we are less committed, and then we don't want to put enough resources. And so there is need to take this matter a lot more seriously. And you see, it shouldn't turn into a story, because when you see 200 people, 100 people, 40 people, 29 people, these are lives, these are human beings, and we are mandated to protect them, to give them safety. And so when we fail to take actions, we then become responsible for whatever our people are going through. All right. And we are not going to say this is not going to continue, because we cannot stop some of these things from happening. But we can find ways of dealing with them. We can prepare our people, just like Madam Sarah Birette was putting it. How much have we done as a country to even make sure we support the structures that we have created? I work with the local government. I know about the District Disaster Management Committee. We have the District Disaster Policy Committee, which is headed by the district chair, and the City Disaster Policy Committee headed by the mayor. And then we have the technical wing, aided by the technical people, and these structures are mandated to make sure they plan, they assess the situation, they coordinate with the center, they take part actively. And so the problem is not just only the center. Let us also look down. There is a big problem of attitude, because when people know that there is likely to be a problem here, there are cracks here, you don't need to be pushed. We as citizens, we also need to take responsibility. And that is why I say it's a problem for the entire country, not just only people in position of responsibility, not just government, not everyone in this country needs to take responsibility, because dealing with matters of disaster, everyone has to be responsible. So when you look at these structures created by the National Policy for Disaster Preparedness and Management, we have right from the village level. How are those structures working? How are they supported to effectively play their part, mobilizing the population, sending information where it's needed, coordinating with the sub-counties, and then we have the sub-county disaster management committee, and then we have the district, and goes on up to the center. How do these structures coordinate and work? But also, how do we support them? Because where I am disappointed, you find when there is a problem, and then you find ministries and government running around to look for resources. And why don't we plan adequately, put resources? Because we know this is bound to happen. How do we prepare adequately? So my biggest disappointment is that we have allowed this to become part of us, and lives are being lost, and we have turned it into a story. We have created a beautiful document that should guide us. We have turned it into, and that is why many countries think we are jokers. I remember giving an example, Ladid Charles, sometimes back, when I said I was in Rwanda, and a gentleman, interestingly, studied in Uganda. He works in Rwanda now, some, these agencies. And he said, most of the things they're doing successfully in Rwanda are actually copied from Uganda. If you have studied this document, the National Policy for Disaster, it tells you so much that we know. We have the information, we have the statistics. So what exactly is failing us from building the infrastructures needed, putting the resources, and being proactive? And every time we are too much used to what I would call, fire brigade style of work. We want to run where there is a problem and appear to be working. When there is a problem, we want to pretend to be working. When we can actually do something to prevent, do something to mitigate, do something to manage. And that is what I want to see the country getting into. So it's sad, it's painful. I condole with my brother, John. He has done his part as a leader, but I think we need to do much more. We need to do much more on the ground. The people also need to understand that this is about their life. This is about all of us. And so when they are told things, safety starts with you. And so you as a human being, you don't need to be pushed every time. If you are told, move away from this place, you don't need to create excuses. Move. First, secure yourself. And then the next minute, we begin to talk about long-term solution. But when we try to bring a lot in politics and trying to prove who is right and who is not doing his work or our work, and in the process, more lives are being lost. This is sad, this is unacceptable, and as a country, we should be ashamed that we know what has been going on, but we want to say the same thing as if these things have not been going on for so many years. We have to take responsibility. So that's all I can say, Charles.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Mapenduzi. Keep online. Honorable Minister, I want to bring you now on board. You have so many questions. The last one he ended with is the question that I think John will be the right person to answer on why, when people are told move, or people have to be moved, why the resistance? John, as a local leader, you need to tell us why it is hard. But starting with the Honorable Minister. But just before, as Honorable Ojara spoke, One listener from Kapchorwa sent me this letter from Nabila Tuk Town Council, from the Chief Administrative Officer Nabila Tuk District, from the Town Council Nabila Tuk Town Council, Town Clerk, sorry, of Nabila Tuk Town Council, and where he is listing 226 people who had died of hunger in Naupala Ward 41, Central Ward 61, Arengesiep Ward 78, Lolet Ward 31, and Natopojo Ward 15, total 226, and dying due to lack of food in the famine situation. Now, Honorable Minister, these are all disasters we are talking about, and the question is, let me start with what Sarah asked. Are we really serious? How serious are we?
Very good. First of all, again, I want to say this, Charles, I really would want to be very clear. The Prime Minister and her team, although I am under the Prime Minister as a minister, there is a need to invite them so that they specifically talk about their dockets. I would want you to, for example, invite the Minister responsible for disaster management to come and tell the country what they have done and what they intend to do and now, so that I don't risk this, I don't run a risk of like being a spokesman of the Minister of Disaster Preparedness or even my Right Honorable Prime Minister. But I want to first let David know, Pulukol, that the conference, the discussion we had in UMI were not in vain. The resolutions that were made informed that beautiful piece of legislation that we are hearing about, the National Disaster Risk Reduction paper that has become a policy of government. If you look at that document carefully, it is the resolutions that we came up with in UMI that informed some of the ideas that the ministry had gathered from the different parts of the world as they benchmarked. What the listeners and viewers will ask is, yes, it is beautiful, how has it been operationalized? Maybe that's another matter. There are suggestions that it must not just remain at the national level or even at the district level, it must be cascaded down to the sub-county and to the village. It is in the villages where these emergencies do happen. But one beautiful thing that we went ahead while I was still in that ministry, where we went ahead to do was to push the Ministry of Finance through Parliament to establish the contingency fund. The contingency fund, the Constitution commanded us that it must be 3% of the overall budget. If we are talking about 48 trillion, then 3% of 48 trillion should be ring-fenced for emergencies. And it is in black and white that was authorized by Parliament. It is, of course, to be very honest, unfortunate that it has never been to the letter implemented, thanks to sometimes the defiance of my colleagues from the Ministry of Finance. You find they will say we are going to you will comply, but it doesn't come through. Look at my sector, the Ministry of responsible for roads, works. We are supposed to have, we passed again recently, when we established the National Roads Authority, there is a resource that is supposed to go straight to that fund that is meant to keep the roads that we have opened up in the country all the time properly managed. but finance sometimes has had challenges in that direction also. So that is a matter that we are discussing sometimes in-house, but as we continue to discuss it in-house, the population feels the impact externally, and it makes us appear shabby, in the words of Sarah. It makes us appear shabby in the face of the, are we competent, and something like that. I must say to viewers that we are in this thing together. And while we need together, some of us
Which
who are
one? The suffering or the solution?
Particularly working and making sure that we can prevent the preventable ones, making sure that we, like I said, there are those disasters that can only be mitigated, that can only be managed, and when we are done, you know, I don't need to go through the phases of disasters here. But I remember, again, I also want to say, at the risk of almost speaking for disaster management, as a minister, I used to find a bit of challenges. As I traveled across the world to benchmark what happens in some parts of the world, I went to a poor country called the Philippines, that archipelago, so many islands. I found my counterpart there had a lot of authority. For example, if Mount Pinatubo is about to erupt, the minister, they call it civil defense, my counterpart there. The minister of civil defense had the power to command wananchi to leave, and gives them a specific period. And he had the police were supposed to take his command. From internal affairs, it is swung to the minister. So the police will implement the evacuation within the time that the minister has authorized. We have not yet reached there, I must be honest.
We have too much democracy.
Yeah, too much democracy, and then so many centers of power. If, for example, I asked people in Soroti Aoja now to vacate, there will be another authority that will challenge me and say, but where did you get the final? Why are you finally?
Who are you?
So that kind of thing. So I found it in a third world, a developing country like the Philippines, a minister responsible for civil defense. I found, of course, I can also take it to a very civilized country now. That is Israel.
Is that now part of the leadership crisis someone talked about?
It is. I don't think it boils to becoming a crisis, but I think the way we have designed our system is such. You see, I think there is too much democracy, there is also too much bureaucracy, and then there are so many I don't know how to put it, where you find
impunity, corruption.
Yes, I have raised this before, and I can raise this again, even for records and the viewers there.
Honorable, if I may
just before you come in, Sarah, a few days ago, I was telling my colleagues, and I know they are watching and they are saying the man is again repeating it in the studio. I was telling some of my colleagues, recently when there was a flood here in Kampala and the periphery of Kampala, a minister's hotel was swallowed by water, and I was very happy. I'm sorry to appear callous. I'm sorry to appear callous. Here is a minister who went and planted a hotel in a waterway, a beautiful hotel in a waterway, because he's a minister, so it's very important, and nobody could be checking.
Yes.
So all of us were helpless until nature came.
Nature checked him.
So nature came and flooded this hotel. I am not against my colleague, but I am at least happy that nature has been able to communicate to him, and in doing that, communicate to all of us that you can be powerful here. But there are things that, because we are supposed to be role models.
But that's impunity.
We are supposed to be role models. But as to whether we have failed, I want to say we haven't. For example, this contingent fund should be implemented. But there are also some challenges that I want. We are living in we all know this, Sarah. We have just come out of this terrible thing called COVID-19 that brought our resource envelope to a near paralysis. You know, we didn't have. Now, while ideally we would want to implement the contingency fund to the letter, we are operating a cash budget. And a cash budget will depend on what revenue authority has collected. That is what the Minister of Finance will share. I can say, I have been asking my colleagues in the Minister of Finance, why have you given so meager the releases for even, I can tell you as a minister responsible for works, what should have happened. is we always do position some assets in areas that are prone to flooding, and those assets include, for example, the excavators, and they are there. But it is likely that a disaster like the one of Mbale can arrive when there is no fuel. It is likely that when there is no fuel. Why is there no fuel? Because the release is so meager.
But Honorable Minister, just 1 minute. We have been experiencing landslides in Bududa before COVID.
Over 13 years.
How different did the government act?
The difference is that when Bududa happened, I can give you that authoritatively. When Bududa happened, the truth, we didn't even have equipment in the region for immediate search and rescue. We didn't have.
I remember.
I was deployed to the area by cabinet, and I had to ask whether there is a excavator in Mbale. It was not there. I asked for ginger. It was not there. We brought one which was in Rakai. I can painfully tell the country that fact.
And when it arrived on the ground,
yes, so it was a problem.
Have fuel.
But then we sat down.
I remember. It didn't have fuel that time.
So we sat down and say, Madam Sarah, we sat down and say, this should never happen again. So resources were mobilized and we say, let's address this in the different regions. We now have those assets. Those assets, you are saying, yes, we saw people pulling people in mud. Let me also be very careful, tell you very carefully. In search and rescue, you have to be very careful with the tools you deploy. If you are going to use an excavator in unearthing human bodies, it is in the mud, you are using metal. So some areas we say, okay, we feel our people are trapped here. And if they are trapped here, let us open the other side using the equipment that does not talk. But let's use people with the brains, with the kind of tools that they can marshal.
But with protective gear.
That should happen. You know, that should happen. Maybe that's the lacuna that we must also look around and say, why did this happen? Why did this happen? As for what the Prime Minister did, you see, there are different styles of management. When I was in the ministry, I used to be the face of government in all emergencies. I used to be the face of government. Now, why was I face of government? Dr. Rohana Rugonda and the president presided over strategy. Mine was tactical. Now, sometimes you can have a leader who will say, I want to combine both strategy and tactical. That is a management style. So if the present Prime Minister has chosen to be both a strategic planner and a tactical manager, that is something we cannot blame her for. What is important is, are there results? Are there results? That to me is extremely critical. So I want to say, Charles, that Mbale has presented us, and I want to say this to the viewers there, meteorologists warned us that the next place is Teso, and I happen to come from there. So I shouldn't just keep quiet here, and then they say, but Echura had heard about it and didn't warn us. The Teso situation is, if you stand in Kada Mountain, if you stand in Sebe in Mount Elgon, Teso is like a basin. It is at the receiving end of all this water, the torrential waters that come from Mount Elgon, the torrential waters that come through, it goes through Teso as it pours either through Kyoga in the different rivers, either River Moroto that becomes a Soa there, or through Aoja here and those areas. So the people of Teso who happen to sit in wetland must be told that this thing is coming, and they must relocate to raised ground, to places which are dry, to avoid appearing like they are surprised, you know. And then finally, there is this whole thing of attachment to tradition. I was responsible for relocating my people from Budoda. You go to a place, you want to relocate people, and they are saying, but Mr. Chweru, these are graves of our grandparents. We cannot leave these graves here. We are saying, please, you are still alive. It is unfortunate. This was a good place yesterday, but climate change has made it now a place which is vulnerable to these calamities. Can you relocate? And our population must be made to relocate, and I don't know what language to use. because if I was still the commander of the Arrow group and then I'm used to, then I would go and say, please, can you get moving? But now I'm a minister of works. No. I must operate within the law. This is the kind of limitation I have now. This is the limitation I have now. So that's my problem. So, but we have good intentions. The country should know that we have good intentions. We are diligent. We have a vision. We have plans that we work against. But sometimes the resources are not matching the challenges.
Before I bring in Honorable Musila, what plans does cabinet have for the disasters going on in Karamoja?
It is a pity, first of all.
In the remote areas.
It is a pity that many lives are being lost. First of all, I also want, let me say this. When Honorable Nakut rose in the floor of Parliament and he said there is death as a consequence of hunger, I was very disappointed to find my own colleagues, some of them contradicting it, to appear like it was politics. I am a neighbor of Karamoja. I'm a neighbor of Karamoja. As we talk, I have 22 youth in my farm, from Kotido, in my farm. I intercepted them on their way to Kampala. Why are you going to Kampala? Akoro. It is hunger. It is hunger. I told them, no, there is no food in Kampala. Get out of this vehicle. Let's go home. They are in my farm as we talk now. Because at least in my farm, they can have some cassava to eat. They can have some little whatever. They are there in my farm. 22. These children you see in the streets are not here because there is a picnic here. They don't want to come here. They come here because they have no choice. These children here, these are my relatives. Now, the problem is sometimes we politicians fail to differentiate between, you think when it is raised, then it is a vote of no confidence in you. No! It is an observation of a fact that there is hunger in Karamoja. The beauty about it is now that there is a response that has been packaged. As to whether it is adequate is another matter. But food has been taken to Karamoja. It might, and then also the truth, Honorable David, when I was a minister there in the department, I took food to one of the districts. Let me be very precise. I took food to Kotido. Then the food went 3 days before, but the first lady then, who was the minister of Karamoja, warned me that the leaders sometimes steal food. So, Mr. Churu, what mechanism do you have for making sure the food reaches the beneficiary? So I decided to drive quietly without warning the people of Kotido that I'm coming. On the day they were distributing, one brave woman, and I'm saying this with a heavy heart, one brave woman came to me, who is educated at Karamoja, and told me, Mr. Minister, I'm told you are the one who sent this food. I said yes. Do you know that in that store there are 90 bags that have not been pulled out, and they are distributing this, and it so there are 90 bags of 100 kilos.
Whistleblowers.
You know, so I called the cow, Mr. Cow. Open that store. What is this for? That, you know, for people with disability and for how disabled are Karamojongs, that they are the truth is that the leaders sometimes take advantage of the vulnerable people.
Exactly.
That is also, I found that out. And so there are challenges. You may think you have done it in Kampala. I implore my colleagues, particularly in disaster management, not just to say we have sent so many metric tons, and they think that the people who are down there who are doing the distribution are Christians. They might be baptized, but they are criminals, some of them. So they must be followed, so that you must see it to the dot that it has gone to that poor woman. I can tell you, Charles, I have had to go to some of those areas and supervise the making of porridge. You saw it on television. Make porridge for these mothers who are about to die. I want them to take porridge before I leave this area, so that the remaining food should be distributed to their caregivers. That kind of supervision is not very common. And when we over-delegate, then they take advantage of us.
Sarah,
Honorable, if I may ask you one question. Please. I know government has been talking about silos. And there is talk of famine in West Nile. There is talk of famine in other regions.
Not yet famine.
Okay, for hunger, whatever, starvation, lack of food, if I may call it. And the report has said 35% of Ugandans are unable to find food by Twaweza. So how prepared are we as a country to feed our own people?
Again, I don't want to speak for agriculture for
what,
but what I can say with authority, last Monday we passed money that is supposed to be given to the Minister of Agriculture to quickly mobilize farmers and groups like prisons to quickly produce quick maturing food to take advantage of the second rains. Man has been given huge money to the tune of about 300 billion or something like that. The out is broken down. My colleague from the Ministry of Agriculture can. We have.
This is by cabinet.
This is by cabinet, and it is something that we are going to follow. We have already decided on it, and the resources. The idea is, can we produce, for example, Karamoja now? The rains have returned. There is a type of sorghum that matures within 60 days. Can we deploy that kind of seed to that area as quickly as possible? Teso now, we need potato vines. Forget cassava will take years. We need potato vines. We need the green grams. I don't know what you call it. You call it choroko in Teso. It is edible. It is also, I'm told you, nutritious. Can we deploy it? Can we have those seeds procured and distributed so that they take advantage of this second season? These are the kind of things that we are discussing, and of course, again, my colleagues in agriculture will come and explain to the country why. But I saw Honorable Bariomusi, the ministers, communicating it in the media center. But I think there is a need to have this so that people like Sarah and David can cross-examine the minister. But now they are cross-examining an innocent man. The media center. The man is an innocent man. I'm supposed to be handling bridges. I'm now forced to.
Even the roads and the bridges can cause disaster. On another forum,
yes,
I will
security roads in Karamoja.
I will summon
so that our cows are safe,
because the people of West Nile, Nebi and all that area, Zombo, are not happy with you for their road. The road between Nebi and
Yuki and Goli, I am handling it personally.
It has cost lives.
Yes.
And that is another kind of disaster, but that will be for another day.
Charles, I shared this with the MPs today.
Stand warned.
I am, because Nebi is like my home.
Yes.
I have shared it even among colleagues who may not know the place. How can we do a road all the way from Malaba and detour in Nebi town to Arua, and we cannot do 18 kilometers from Jukia to Goli, a place which is a big link to the market of Congo. How can we ignore that?
Yeah.
So 18 kilometers, we are thinking about it. It will be tarmac.
I will invite you
for as long as I'm the minister here.
I will invite you one day with Madame Kajina, and we discuss roads, and that will come comprehensively. But Honorable Musila,
yes,
one of the major issues that have been found problematic is, he touched on it a bit, but from another perspective. When people are, advised that this place is prone to this disaster, and the weather patterns are showing the danger, potential danger coming, people don't want. And in 2010, after that disaster, when we went to Bududa, we went with him and a team of other journalists. And when your people were being told that we are going to relocate you to other areas, they bluntly refused. They said, we would rather die here. Our graveyards are here. With that kind of situation.
In fact, one of the ministers, I don't want to mention the name, was very blunt. He told them, you want to join those graves? By refuse, you want to join those graves, which was one of the senior ministers, I don't want to mention his name. It was rude, it appeared rude, but I think he was expressing frustration.
Yeah, true. So, Musila, what is the role of local leaders in this?
The constitution, I'm sandwiched between two ministers, from one active and the other one former. And all the courtesy to call upon them, and through continuity of the wealth of history and whatever they have had in this country, have done in this country. Now, Honorable Procol is the mother of this constitution.
It's the father.
I'm not.
Mother. I said mother intentionally.
Okay.
Don't mind mothering
Okay.
the constitution of Uganda. And that's why Uganda is a mother to us. In the 29 objectives, Honorable Protocol were very smart that they put objective number 23 on natural disasters. And let me read it verbatim so that the nation hears what we are talking here. The state shall institute effective machinery for dealing with any hazard or disaster arising out of natural calamities or any situation resulting in general displacement of people or serious disruption of the people's normal life. It is enshrined in our constitution. Thank you, my brother, Prokor. Before I answer that question, which to me is simply negative rhetoric about resettlement, about the Bagisu getting resettled, to me is blackmail. I should say blackmail. And I will talk about it very, very fully and properly. Honorable Ichweru raised a number of questions. We wouldn't have lost people if the road infrastructure was perfect. Tororo, Soroti Road has just been repaired a few years ago. And we warned, at the time I think I was even in
local council.
Local council. We said, can we put, I'm not an expert in engineering and whatever, but maybe he is. We said, can we put box culverts or decks? And you remember that around Manafa, from Bushu around there, the road broke down. They had to work on the same. But we warned, these small cylindrical culverts cannot hold the youthful current from the rivers in the Mount Elgon. They didn't. So part of the problem is our engineering works. We have all sorts of engineers. Charles, we are people of the region. In 2006, at around midnight, I was still reading, there was an earthquake. The first ever in the last several years I've lived on the earth. 57 years now, I am. We experienced an earthquake. And in a mountain like that one, shaking the soils, it repeated in 2014. Now, from 2010, we suffered one of the most massive landslides in Bududa in Nameti. 2011, 2012, 2013, up to 2018, a multiple series of landslides.
And another one is on its way.
Actually,
in a few months.
I informed the parliament. I don't know whether
I was there.
Yeah, you were there. I informed the parliament. Like I said, you have seen my colleague Honorable Mapinduzi even echoing it and saying, if I would be a prophet, then I would be taken to be a real prophet of parliament. Because I said it is coming, and it came 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks later.
Except you would be like Prophet Amos.
Not about the prophet of doom.
Prophet of doom.
But I'm a prophet. You should even christen me to be a parliamentary prophet now. Now, my brother, the cracks were made. The cracks, because of this seismology and the earth moving here and there, these cracks were created. We have a 40-kilometer crack running through
Namisindwa.
3 districts: Namisindwa, part of Manafa, and Abududa.
That's on the mountain.
On the mountain, 40 kilometers. In my own home, I said it earlier, isolated places where you would think it is even slightly gentle, a gradual slope. In Bumba Town Council, in Rwanda Ward, people are in danger because the cracks, the last time I was there, they were widening. I laid papers in the parliament over the same cracks. They are there. We have warned. We have said this multiple times. You see that? Now, coming to the question which you asked me, have people refused? It may have been at the time in 2010, not now. Charles, we were supposed to build 900 houses in Bulambuli, in Bunambutie. How many are there now? In the last 7 years or so, only 263. And we are not about to even increase to 300. I doubt so. In Kiriandongo, people were taken there. Half houses, no land given.
No, there's a place called Bududa there.
No, even before this government project of relocating people from Bugisu to Kiriandongo, do you know that Bugisu have been there for the last almost 100 years?
But not in that.
No, we have Bweyale, we have Kiriandongo generally, we have Kigumba. Actually, if you go to Kigumba, about every 10 houses, 7 or 8 were owned by Bagisu. You see that? They went on their own, of course. I also should appreciate that the land pressure in Bugisu is quite a problem as well. It has impacted on the natural environment, especially on wetlands and the river banks. We dig up to almost the channels of the rivers. That's true. And when, you know, the violence of rains, especially torrential, then we get problems. No. The other issue, my brother.
So are you the local leaders talking to the people?
Yes.
To start appreciating.
Yes.
But also engaging government to ensure that it is deliberately done, not ad hoc on their own, but that, and challenge government that if you are transferring our people, relocating them, there are certain rights and you know, there are certain rights that should be had to them.
Yes.
Including allocation of resources, including respecting their, you know, their traditions and all that. That they should not be interfered with, but that should be provided and that kind of thing. Are you doing that as a community of leaders?
Sensitization is number one, and especially for local leaders like us, we do that. The trouble is the pace at which government moves is so slow. So slow. For example, in the immediate, let alone the short-term or long-term plans. In the meantime, we have had these floods. Now, the resultant effects later are going to be even much more grave. The cracks are widening. What we are going to have, one is landslides, and the massive ones this time. I want to prophesy again like that. Secondly, you know, these the flash floods washed off most of the sanitary areas like pit latrines and dumped into the rivers. Now, the upstream problems. Downstream districts like Butaleja, like Namutumba, and down into the Mporogoma River, we are going to have problems of either cholera, dysentery, or malaria, or anything like that.
Waterborne diseases.
So, yeah, what are the mitigative measures the government has done? Do we have medical camps ready to do that? No. What about evacuation camps? I've been singing this all throughout. All of us in Bugisu, one of the days we were on the floor of Parliament, we degenerated into quarreling, Honorable Nandala, with the Prime Minister. Actually, but we are on the point. We are saying, please, can you put measures mitigatively in place in case of this problem? So evacuation centers should be established. The other issue we have proposed as Bugisu, compensation. At the pace government is building resettlement centers, areas, the houses, there is a full policy and UPDF brigade, construction brigades in Bonambuli, in Bonambutia, but the pace is slow. So we have proposed, can we have compensation to affected areas, victims
Okay.
Can we give them money? For example, let the nation see this clearly. A house in Bonambotie is valued at around 50 million. Then 1 acre land given to the victims, to the family, possibly can be valued as well 50 million. So if you gave 100 to these gazetted victims already, then they can find their own land, as long as we advise that they shouldn't set or buy land in the wetlands or again in another prone area.
Okay.
That would be better. The other issue we have proposed over time is urbanization. Can we get these people moving into urban centers, town councils, municipalities, and with the properly planned and stored buildings, so that they can go only for farming in the mountains, but during settlement is in the urban centers.
Thank you.
Those are the mitigative measures the region has proposed.
Okay.
Thank you.
The discussion is so interesting, and I just realized that we have run out of time.
Oh, sure.
So we need to look at the solutions now. Sarah, starting with you, 2 minutes, and then I bring in Mapenduzi and Honorable Pulkola as well, and then we allow the minister to end.
Oh, okay. Maybe I will start with a question to both the minister and the MP, and maybe Pulkola, the former minister. Why is it that we can't declare such areas that are disaster prone, like the situation of landslides? Why don't we declare them disaster areas and put a state of emergency? I know this was done in 2007, and the Constitution under Article 110 provides for the same.
Yes.
So if the Meteorological Department or authority, like now it is called, has predicted landslides, and you have people who have failed to move.
Yes.
During COVID, you put the whole country under state of emergency through lockdowns. So although we didn't declare state of emergency as in the word, but we are in a state of emergency. Stay at home. No, we can argue about it, but we are all not allowed to move. We surrendered our rights and freedoms of movement. So you said this area is prone to landslides.
Yes.
Cabinet has declared it a disaster area. Everybody, you have 24 hours to vacate.
And go where?
No questions about it.
Sarah, go where?
No, that's what the government.
They have their rights.
I know. No, wait, Honorable. Once cabinet takes that decision,
yes,
it's, this was taken in 2007.
Make that money available.
When there were floods in northern and eastern Uganda, we took this decision. Once you take that decision, you put some seed money on table to evacuate the people, to feed them, and to accommodate them, but also other agencies quickly come in because there is a declaration of emergency. So you have World Food Program, you have Red Cross, you have UNDP, everybody comes in top because we have rules and regulations of dealing with disaster areas.
Yes.
So the question of people resisting to move should not be an obstacle.
No, they have never
saving lives when the Constitution empowers government to act, including declaring a disaster area or state of emergency in a particular area in Uganda. Part of the solutions is really, the best way to go about disasters is preparedness. We must have a functional early warning and rapid response mechanism. I know the spokesperson of Office of Prime Minister has been online on Twitter saying the Office of Prime Minister has a department for early warning mechanisms, but so what? Did you warn the people of Umbala to move?
Early warning, mechanical, natural, whatever. We have all that.
There's supposed to be a NECOC, national
yes,
emergency.
but you see, early warning must go hand in hand with the preparedness.
It must be effective.
And the rapid response.
That's very true. I agree
So
with
if you have famine in Karamoja, and especially for Karamoja, for me it is very shameful. But I haven't seen anybody, any of the leaders coming out to apologize. You have MPs, 29 MPs. You have leaders from LC1 up to LC5. We had the vice president spend 3 weeks in Karamoja. We had the prime minister spend 2 weeks in Karamoja. We had the president spend 2 weeks in Karamoja. And when you come back to Kampala, we watch live skeletons. Whom were they interacting with? And did you see a warning of prime minister work in case of Karamoja with a clear prolonged drought? And how prepared were they? They took even forever to respond. So to me, I think there is no way about it. We must prepare for these disasters, but also we must protect and save our environment.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Honorable Pulkol, someone on solutions in 2 minutes, but someone is saying here, who is listening, Saidi, says, Charles, thanks for the show. Please, can you keep that seat now for Mr. Pulkol permanently? Because that seat is worth him. We have been missing him for a while.
Congratulations.
So I was right to say you went MIA.
Okay.
MIA, you know.
No. There are many people talking. And so when people were fearing to talk, some of us had to talk. But now when there are so many people talking, we just go and take notes and keep quiet. But now there's definitely a case. Like for example in Karamoja, there are grassroots-based indicators that needs to be picked from that indigenous technical knowledge, how that society used to monitor, okay, and predict famine and predict disasters. So there is definitely well established through, but how is this integrated within the early warning system in Prime Minister's office and or in Ministry of Agriculture? Because Ministry of Agriculture is using the satellite imagery, the greening effect, that the satellite passes over Karamoja every 10 days and they print out and they think it is green. But it doesn't tell you that there was army worm in this month and that people had planted and the army worm was not followed up by heavy rain. Okay, because usually whenever there was army worm and it's followed by heavy rain, there's going to be a bumper harvest for us. If there's army worm and there's no heavy rain like it was recently after the army worm, then you know definitely 3 months, 6 months down the road, there's a famine. So there's need to marry, even in Bugishu, there's early warning system. That's why snakes are never in this mud here. They don't die.
No.
They are animals, they are birds and so forth. They detect these things. There's we were trained when we were young how to look at the flowering of the plants. You know, a dry season is beginning, a rainy season is beginning, the behavior of certain birds, of certain animals, and so you begin to see a queer behavior.
When they fly out of the area, you know there is,
and these days,
some trouble coming.
The young people are not being schooled in this thing. They are all on WhatsApp and what. You even don't know when the thing comes, because for you, you spend the whole time in your WhatsApp. And yet by midnight, 2 a.m., the thing is hit. So I think we need to find how to strengthen our early warning systems. Now, the time time for the military to take over the so-called early warning center or, I don't know, operation center in OPM. I think we are dying because some people are not doing their work. I think we need to take that seriously. And therefore,
proposing that,
including intelligence services,
with your leaders, so that they should propose that,
including intelligence services. I think that operation center is too important to be left to people who knock off at 5 p.m., go to bars. They don't care who is dying. There are two faces of Uganda. There are two faces of Karamoja. There are those of us who are on the highway or on trading centers in towns and so forth, who are looking so good. You know, life is Christmas. There's tea flowing in your, every 10 minutes in your office. You have no opportunity to feel angry. When I hear Honorable Nandutu saying this is exaggerated, there's no death. Who are you? She seems to have forgotten how anger kills people. It doesn't come like a panga and you see blood flowing.
No.
You know, even optimistic, this is take away. You waste away. You desire to eat something. For 2 weeks you can't. You know, and you're dying out there. So let the ordinary people be the ones to talk behind those fences, those manyatas. Let's go and open their granaries. Let's go. I want to see these ministers really on the ground. I want to see the media houses really go and see those emaciated people talking. Because now the question is, who's talking in Karamoja? There's only one, either it's a spokesperson of the police, spokesperson of the army, spokesperson, but where are these ordinary, the starving people?
But
enter in the
so
even when you go to Bugishuna,
the 4th estate.
Yeah. So because there are those of us who are talking, I think time has come to allow those ordinary, because when they speak, it doesn't become headlines.
Okay. Thank you. I'm told that we have lost the Honorable, we have lost the line for the Honorable Mapenduzi. I don't know whether he has come back. I needed his view on solutions. Honorable Mapenduzi?
Can I take his minute?
I'd already given, I'm going to, I think we have lost his line. I'm going to give you 1 minute to just wind up.
Since these are predictable, so by now the infrastructure, warehouses, where you preposition supplies, where you preposition certain equipment, you know, because these are countable. Is it 10 areas in Uganda? Is it 15 or what? Which suffer these? So that's why I'm saying that I think time has come for us to take, because when the military got involved in water icing on the bridge, you saw results. When the late Oketa was involved in the issues of, you know,
that very nerve center.
Yeah, the nerve center. So I don't know who has replaced him. So I think the time has come for us to take this thing very seriously. And for example, now Cabinet took a decision 2 weeks ago, 135 billion for Karamoja. Imagine a supplementary, nothing has even come out yet. You understand? Not even requisitioned by the respective minister. Now, meanwhile, people are dying. By the time the money comes, people will have died. So this is really, now then there are people who are doing business in Karamoja, Tororo Cement. Have you heard them? They carry a lot of limestone. Okay?
Yes,
marble. There are factories in Jinja which are making paint, making terrazzo, marble, out of stones from Karamoja. Have you heard them contributing a thing?
Especially
they are banks.
Social responsibility.
Yeah, they are breweries. But how come that, is it just that because it is only Karamojong dying? So how come there is no such response?
There's someone called Dr.
So maybe
Patrick.
Those stones should stop
Dr.
coming
Patrick.
out.
Dr.
Those factories must move into Karamoja. After all, there is now 132 kVA power to take those industries. Those trucks, those companies that are taking, that have contracts, that are ruining our roads. Maybe the time has come for those factories to move in there. Now, when there's a disaster like this, you don't even feel.
Julius Muchunguzi, who is in charge of communication in the Prime Minister's office, says to Pulkol, actually Nekok is headed by an army officer, Brigadier General Kinalwa.
How come we are not hearing them?
He's not on the ground?
No, I mean really, what is this? What are they? I think doing? Open up, like in a school, there are open days. Invite the parents. Let's come to your operation center. Let's see what is there.
And we review your performance.
Yeah, open up.
Okay, to the minister, I'm now calling you on to wind up the discussion. But to the minister, someone called Dr. Patrick says it's nearly 1 month since Cabinet released the Uganda shillings 135 billion in response to the hunger crisis. I remember that.
In Karamoja.
In Karamoja. And over 2,000 people have so far died of hunger. As we speak now, food has not reached the people of Karamoja.
Give them cash transfers.
And they are continuing to die of hunger. So, government has gone silent. What happened to this money, Honorable Minister? Are the responsible ministries conscious that the delay to release this fund is worsening the disaster? Honorable Minister.
First of all, let me start with that. In the statement of the Prime Minister, she says they have so far received 20 billion from what was committed. Again, like I said, I think there is need for my colleague from disaster preparedness to come and speak to the country about what has been released and why they are not felt, particularly in all the corners of Karamoja. I want to speak, like I said again, as a neighbor of Karamoja. The hunger is real. That's not a story. The hunger is real. I am happy that I've seen in some areas food being offloaded. The hunger is real. Today, when Sarah was talking about the neighborhood, even Otuke in Ilango is beginning to feel the tremor. Is beginning to. The unfortunate thing is that they are already out of despair, even beginning to mobilize by themselves now. Those who feel they have something extra, or not necessarily extra, something they feel like maybe they can share some little fraction with those that might be dying. So that's how bad it is. The beauty again about these communities is their ability to cope, particularly if the rains start. If the rains were not violent like they are now, if the rains were these normal rains, our people's coping mechanism is very smart. You would find that this threat would just fade off within the next few weeks if the rains were okay, because they can start getting their edible vegetables and then they will survive. My prayer is yes, Office of the Prime Minister, particularly my senior colleague from disaster management, should explain to the country what is available, what they are doing, and work with the Minister of Agriculture, like I have told you, the resources, so that they indicate where they are taking planting materials. But going forward, preservation of the environment is urgent. As we preserve the environment, I can tell you, for example, I have tested in some areas, people just vacating a wetland, you don't even need to plant, just keep away from that wetland. The wetland has regenerated by itself. It has just regenerated by itself. So if our people get disciplined, and it should start from us, those of us who speak English and Kiswahili, on top of our local languages, because we are the elite. If we can say, you gentlemen, let's get out of this place, it is becoming a problem to us and to our children. The local people will respect. But if the child is, I am the one moving to the wetland, and I'm lecturing the poor person that get out, it brings competition. That is one. Then the second thing is this group that David Pulkol was describing, that these masqueraders who enjoy a sense of entitlement. We are veterans. So what? Who tells you when you're a veteran you must occupy a wetland?
They are taking the whole swamp.
So I want also to tell them, even me here, I'm a veteran, but I'm not in a wetland. So who are you? Who are you to think that you can occupy wetlands and get away with it? So that nonsense should stop. That nonsense of claiming some title and thinking that title is used to some things that are even illegal. I think it's not good. Then now prevention, mitigation. Prevention is, of course, when we talk about allowing these wetlands to resuscitate, allow the mountains to rejuvenate the cover that they once used to enjoy. That should be done. We must enforce it. I think there are laws, there are policies, but enforcement has been wanting. National Forest Authority, I said it, my colleague Honorable Dugutom, the executive director, you have been accused, your organization has been accused of presiding over the selling of or giving out of the existing forest for people to fell, to turn to timber, but not planting new trees. That's why the forest cover has degenerated from 32.
Mavira is now transparent.
Yes, it is just along the road. We told the HD president, Muzei was comfortable that I think the Mavira has regenerated. But we told him, Mr. President, while you drive along the road, you may not be seeing. The thing is just along the road. But inside there are banana plantations inside Mabira. It is unfortunately, it's a tragedy for the country. So we must lead by example. So National Forest Authority, the tree cover, the forest cover has dropped from 32 to 12 now.
Percent of the
12% in the country from just 1986 to now 2022, it is 12%, and it is degenerating. The areas that used to have good trees like Acholi are soon becoming deserts also. They will be joining parts of Karamoja in being really without trees. Then the question of responding, Charles, I think every event becomes a lesson. There are lessons to be learned. I want to say tomorrow the Prime Minister has again called a meeting. I will share some of these sentiments and opinions that have been raised by these distinguished panelists. I will share openly. The good thing is my colleagues know that I speak from my heart. I don't...
But maybe, Honorable Minister, if you are going to share with the Prime Minister, if she is not watching right now, one of the things you should share is the sentiment. As you know, all the messages that are coming from people on this. People are saying, why don't you put the same amount of passion and energy that you used for handling COVID with the urgency of resource allocation, that whenever Ministry of Health said there is another attack coming, another wave, we need 50 billion. It was released there and then, nothing like we are still waiting for the procurement, this and the other, and that is the same passion with which the issue of Bugisu, issue of Karamoja should be handled. So that then money is released and to help these people. 135 billion, 1 month later, it has not been released. People think that we are treating Karamoja different because it is not infecting ministers, because the famine does not, from Karamoja, does not infect MPs, and yet just hearing that there are 20 MPs who have been tested positive, you know, they would close this, they would release money. That is what people in this country
I will. And also strengthen IGG's office. As you take these resources and the Auditor General, please follow up the anti-corruption, because like you say,
that's a good one.
Yes, I think so. I will share with the Right Honorable Prime Minister and the team tomorrow. I will tell them we had this in case they didn't watch. The country is not comfortable with the pace at which we are responding, and they are happy that we are responding, but not comfortable at the pace, because people continue to suffer, and is there a way we can cushion their suffering? This I will share, and then. But I want to assure the country that everything will be done, particularly if I can conclude by my ministry. The office of the Minister of Works and Transport is going to look at all the issues that, for example, when we are expanding and farming some of these roads, we are going to look at the unique areas. Those who are viewing us now, know, for example, we're supposed to have moved very fast on the Ruenkunye Apache Lira road. But the original design did not take into consideration some of the topographic challenges that road has. So we have to force these people to go back to the drawing board so that they understand, particularly around the late Museo Botis area, that place floods. So the Kokoro area. So now we are back to the drawing board. There is work now going, but it's going to take. So it delayed a bit, not because there were no resources, not because we didn't want to move it. So this is what we are going to do on the same road. We must take into consideration all those challenges. I think we are on top of the situation as a government. It is painful that we have lost our people, but there are lessons to be learned. As to whether we will not lose more people, I don't want to tell the country that it will never happen, but we want to do whatever it takes to make sure that we reduce this embarrassing kind of situation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Musa Echwero, Minister of State in charge of Works. Thank you very much, Honorable Musila, Honorable MP for Bubulo East. Thank you very much, Honorable David Pulkol, and thank you, Sarah Birette. And I think offline now, I want to thank the Honorable Mapenduzi Ojara, who joined us online from all the way from Nairobi. This is a discussion that is more urgent, immediate life being lost. But we had thought that we would have discussed part of the Kenyan elections. Kenyans are going to elect their president and other leaders on 9th, which is, I think, next, is it on Tuesday or Wednesday? And so maybe we will be discussing it as the elections, the election results are trickling in next Wednesday. But we wish Kenyans the best. We are praying, we are tied, you know, at the hip, as they say, you know, in the region. And so what happens in Kenya affects Uganda. Some people say when Kenya sneezes, Uganda catches a cold, or even the region. They will vote on Tuesday. Yes, they will vote on Tuesday.
Charles, especially those of us who are immediately on the border and with the relations across, nataka niseme, heri na fanaka, kwa hii kura iwe iende kisalama, watu wangu wa uko kule Kenya, wache iende salama.
This man is a Kenya.
Peaceful Kenya is good for Uganda and for East Africa.
I should also say that I will join you then from Nairobi, because I'm going to observe elections.
Charles, we are having a Bukusu here masquerading as a Mugisu.
Lakini sisi ni watu wa ukoo across the border.
What is important is that
okay. Now I will withdraw.
And from me, I'm from Matheniko, masquerading as a Turkana across the border.
From across.
Because we share.
Sisi watu wa border
we share language, we share origin,
so,
we share.
Kenyans, please, we are praying that you will have a peaceful election. And we don't want more madness, people dying, you know, because of elections. So we need everybody alive, and let people die of natural causes, not because they want to elect their leaders. And we will keep praying for you and for the entire region. Bye-bye. God bless everybody, and God bless you all, those of you who sit to watch us. The viewer, we don't take you for granted. This program is for you and about your nations, and we thank God. Thank you very much. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The crimes of one of the members of ASIV was published, and later a blow was struck at the pre-trial detention center. The leadership of Ukraine gave the order to launch a missile strike, as captured militants began to